Hi everyone. My name's Amelia. I use she, her pronouns. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. There we go. All right. So as Morgan mentioned, I'm going to be chatting with you all just about my mini grant project titled "The Power of Youth Voices: Youth Advocacy and Campaign Building." This was such a wonderful opportunity, and I'm excited to share the story of how it all went with you all. First, here's just a little bit about me. Like I mentioned, my name's Emilia. I'm 22 years old. I'm located in Portland, Maine. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. I am a recent graduate of the University of Southern Maine. I graduated in May of this year with a double bachelor's degree in Women and Gender Studies and English, as well as minors in music, professional writing, and social justice. I just love school. I love learning. So I'm excited to close my undergrad chapter, but always aiming to learn in my career as well. Since then, I've taken on a full-time role as the youth programs coordinator for a nonprofit called Maine Students Vote, which I'll tell you all a little bit more about. And then also just things everyone needs to know about me. I'm a violinist, a feminist, an avid reader, and a crocheter. There's always yarn in my bag, so I will always have a project on me. All right. So now shifting into Maine Students Vote. So what is it? Maine Students Vote is a nonpartisan nonprofit that's focused on civic engagement for high school and college communities in Maine. Um, it was developed after a bunch of college students came forward and said, we want a nonpartisan space where we can kind of talk about what's going on and chat about how we can increase engagement in our schools. So that came around in 2020, though a lot of our youth programming has been on the ground since 2015. The organization is under an umbrella of a few different organizations. So Democracy Maine is the umbrella organization, but the League of Women Voters sponsors this program specifically. So you may hear me mention either of those, all the same thing, just different names. I work for all of them. We use it interchangeably. So hopefully it's not too confusing. But I first got started with this organization in fall of 2022. I had just transferred to Maine, and I was looking for an internship or something I could do related to advocacy and activism. So I started interning as a election engagement fellow on my campus, which means I was doing civic engagements within classrooms, registering students to vote, hosting events, things like that. I came back and did that again in fall of 2023. And then for 2024, I was offered the position of fellowship coordinator. So I was helping fellows across different college campuses organize what they were going to do for the 2024 presidential election. Um, After that, I became just a volunteer since the program ended in December of the previous year. But then, as I mentioned, I was offered a full-time role as the youth programs coordinator. So starting this May, I have taken on a full-time role in the organization. So I started this entire project as a volunteer, but I am now full-time staff, which is really incredible. Um, and my job entails a lot of things, but the main thing is managing our youth programs. We have high school internships, college fellowships, and a youth advocacy volunteer team, which I'm going to be talking a bit about. So when I applied for this project, I really just went in with a question. I didn't have any set project idea in mind, but my thinking was, how can I give back to the young organizers? We have age range like 15 to 20 who are volunteering their time to learn skills and create change. How can I support them in participating in different advocacy spaces? So a lot of the students I'm talking about here are students who may have interned with us or applied for internships. And we have a volunteer youth advocacy space where folks can just get together, work on projects. And during my internship, I had seen a lot of what they were doing and I had worked with them on things. But I noticed it was hard for them to get projects and things off the ground just because of lack of funding or lack of support, things like that. So I really just wanted to give back to them in any way I can. So once I found out this project was happening and I was able to get it off the ground, I went to that team all of whom are young leaders doing incredible things in their communities, and asked what they wanted to see, what they wanted in terms of skill building for themselves, for the communities, like what projects were they wanting to do. I did the same thing with our spring high school interns as well. And so while I didn't have one specific project, I had quite a few events that I ended up supporting. And a lot of it involved getting young people into spaces in our communities with historically low youth attendance. Um, so you'll see four events here, and I'll talk a little bit about each one. The stars indicate events that were already happening. They're existing events. Um, so yeah, I'll start by explaining. So every year we do, the League of Women Voters of Maine does an advocacy day, which is where all of our volunteers, our members, our leaders, we all go to the Maine State House. We usually have some speakers, a lot of education and action, some lobbying, stuff like that. It's always been open to all. It lacks youth attendance. Sometimes we're able to get like a high school field trip, but college students, it's pretty tricky to get them there. And a lot of our interns, we always invite them, but there's usually they can't miss school or they can't get a ride. So there's a lot of barriers there for that. The next event was this ongoing Vote 16 campaign that was happening. So one of our young people in this youth advocacy team wanted to present a bill in the legislature to lower the voting age to 16 in state and local elections. And this had its public hearing in person at the State House in May. So a lot of this grant supported that event. We got stickers, travel for a lot of folks. I led carpool. It was really amazing to see the impact young people could have by being in the room and talking with their legislators. Another event was a Pride and Art Night. This was hosted by some of our high school interns. They really wanted a night where young people could come together and chat about what's going on in the world, what protest looks like, what pride looks like, but also through a creative lens of art and celebrating identity. So funds went to supplies for that, a space for that, food. We had a really good turnout. We had about 10 people come and make art with us. It was really amazing and a little bit different than some of these other things. So it was fun to spend some time getting to know that team and what interested that demographic. And then the last one was the League of Women Voters State Convention. This is hosted every 2 years. It's a space for league members to connect and vote on issues. We usually do workshops too. There has been, if there were young people in the past, it was maybe one or two people. This is very much like your older generation of volunteers and staff members coming together. Um, so the Vote 16 team decided we wanted to do a workshop for those folks at convention. So I ran that project. We did a presentation. It was really, really well attended. We had about 10 young people at this event. I drove carpool again. It was very fun. Um, but then we also had a lot of intergenerational conversations happening that it was just really amazing to see. And I'm glad I was able to support bringing some young people into the space. So here are some photos from all of that. One of them did not load for some reason, but here's an example of some graphics that folks were making for our different campaigns. All of us at the State House having conversations, talking to legislators and testifying, talking to the news. So yeah, some highlights on what it all looked like and how everything went. All right. So how'd it go? As I mentioned before, I feel it was very successful. We had much more youth, yeah, many more young people involved in civic conversations with older generations. And this is leading to a merging of some of our volunteer groups, which is really exciting to see. And I'm hoping to lead some of those conversations in the next coming months. Um, we also found, and I think this is kind of a given, but the travel stipends, carpool options, and also we stipended some of our leaders if folks spoke or did a workshop. Um, that always just helped to support people, young people in attending events and doing volunteer work. Just being able to say like, hey, you're taking the time to take a leadership position on this. Here's a little something is always helpful. So that's good for us to know going forward in terms of where can we get funding, how can we continue this work. Um, with offered support, I found our leaders were feeling more equipped and eager to take on tasks and lead different projects. I'll chat in a second about some upcoming stuff, but we have some really exciting summer programs planned. Um, Run and managed by me, but with a lot of input and execution from our youth volunteers, which is super exciting. I also myself just got a lot closer with these different groups of young people, which has been really amazing. And I think we've all just become very comfortable with each other, and we're a bit more of a force now when it comes to community advocacy. People are starting to know our names and faces, which is very fun. And then the Vote 16 campaign was completely youth-led, which was a huge success. Unfortunately, our bill did not make it out of committee. We made it further than we ever had before. And one challenge we definitely faced was for a while, I was hoping we could just do like one big rally event surrounding the Vote 16 bill. And we were going to do it after the public hearing so we could get other legislators fired up and the community fired up about it. And our legislator who sponsored it killed the bill without talking to us. So that was a very strange situation that happened. There were some other circumstances going on in the state house this session. So that was a challenge we faced, but I think we were able to pivot very well by um, going to state convention and doing a workshop instead. I think that got some other demographics of folks involved and listening to what we're trying to do. So we're really excited going forward. So what now? Um, as I mentioned, there's a lot of really awesome things coming up. The youth advocacy team has been really consistently well attended. We've usually had to stop for the summer just because folks weren't able to show up, but so far we've been having meetings every week. We're planning a longer campaign plan for 2027 with Vote 16. I had again a young person come with an idea to host gubernatorial forums next year. So that's something we're building a coalition with some other organizations to do youth-led forums. We're doing a Summer of Change education series. It kicks off next week. I'm really excited about this. This was an idea I had just because we have so many young people in different areas, whether they're volunteers or interns or they applied. And I just wanted something that was super accessible for folks to all come together, even if it's over Zoom, to learn some very specific skill building and leadership development. A lot of our youth leaders from that advocacy team will be hosting workshops, so I am super excited about that. Our organization also saw the need for youth working within the organization. Obviously, I was hired, which is great. I'm the youngest person in the organization to be full-time staff, but we've also hired part-time teen and college campus organizers to assist with our growing programs. These are folks that have been around for a while, and they're going to help me kind of coordinate what's going on. So that's very exciting. Due to word of mouth and advertising by a lot of our youth advocacy folks, and just um, the start of the Vote 16 campaign, we had over 22 applicants for our summer internship cohort, which is the most we've ever had ever. And we interviewed all of them, and we wish we could take all of them. So again, that's kind of why I developed the Summer of Change series. That way, the folks that we unfortunately just didn't have spaces for, they could still be involved and still join a program with us and get some skills out of it. We're now organizationally taking on an intergenerational framework for organizing, which we had never really had before. So this is going to be at the forefront of a lot of what we do going forward and making sure all of our different communities are connecting with each other. And then we're also having more young people in national convention spaces, which is very funding dependent, but luckily we were able to, with a lot of the traction our youth programs have had this year. We're going to a conference on Thursday. I'm taking some young people in Virginia. There's going to be one at the end of August that I think some of our folks are trying to get financial assistance to go to for Vote 16 stuff. So that's very exciting. And here are some of the top lessons I learned. So the biggest one was that young people really want to be in these spaces. I talked a lot about specifically the youth advocacy team and those leaders. They are exceptional, exceptional young people, but they are not the exceptions. There are so many other young people out there who want to be doing this work. They just need a little bit more extra support. I also learned advocacy work can be super unpredictable. Like I mentioned, our plan got derailed due to some legislative decisions, but we pivot and we see what's next and we move on. So that was really helpful for me, especially as I was suddenly starting a career in this, kind of the shakiness of those transitions going volunteer to part-time to full-time also helped me learn to just kind of roll with the punches. And then the biggest thing for me is that I had never really heard of or experienced intergenerational organizing in a way that stuck out to me. But now this is one of the key values in my work. It's at the forefront of my thinking all the time. How can we connect different communities to make change all together? So yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Lots of thanks and gratitude to Campus Compact, Morgan and Will. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all the support. Democracy Maine, Maine Students Vote, all the organizations I mentioned that I work for, they've been super supportive, and also gave me a job to continue this, which is amazing. The University of Southern Maine for all the support through graduation, and everyone else who supported me. If you have any questions or want to chat more about future projects, you can email me at amelia@mainestudentsvote.org.